Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be going over how to make a gear set as a tank. As a tank, it's really important that your gear is put together properly. You've got a good gear set as the entire raid's relying on you to have your stuff sorted out so that you're not too squishy, so you're not having threat issues, so you're not getting crit by bosses. All these things you need to make sure you're thinking of and making a gear set that's going to work for your guild, a gear set that's going to be ideal based on your current gear, and a gear set that's going to work for the boss you're about to fight. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how to make a gear set, and it's really not too complicated, but I often get asked, how do you make a gear set, or how do I know if I'm getting crit or not, or what is crit immunity, and should I gem hit, should I gem resilience? That's what this video is going to answer. So, when it comes to BIS list, we have 4 here. I got a Wowhead BIS list up, the best in slot protection warrior gear. And throughout the video, I'm going to be referring to warrior, but this applies to ferals very closely, and also paladins. Most of what I'm saying is going to apply to paladin as well, although the exact use case is going to be a warrior. But these BIS lists, they're good. They're good. I would use any of these gear sets that the Wowhead list provides. Don't really have any glaring issues. I might make a tweak of an item here and there, but all things considered, these are great lists. The problem is not with the list itself, but the idea that to use this BIS list, number one, you need to have all the items on this BIS list, and number two, this BIS list is kind of arbitrarily put together. There's no real, when it comes to tanking, there's no definitive answer to what a BIS list is. When it comes to DPS, a lot of times they can run, sims. They can use a spreadsheet to come up with the definitive best gear set, or the best gear set for this fight length, the best gear set, in this phase, whatever it may be. You can't do that you just can't do that for a tank. There's no such thing as a definitive BIS list, right? If you're to tell me that this is the BIS mitigation list, well, I can just say, hey, this isn't tanky enough. You've got a threat neck, threat wrists, threat chest, threat shoulders, threat ring, not tanky enough, right? You're going to die on Mother Shiraz in a guild that doesn't have very good healers, or in a guild that's running a small amount of healers, or if your guild maybe has a really slow kill time, maybe your healers run out of mana because you don't have enough avoidance, right? I could say this set is not optimal for that situation, and I would want to make changes to make the set tankier. Conversely, I could say this is just too much mitigation. That there's for my guild, there's no fight that needs this much survivability, and in that case, you'd be looking at items like Girdle of Stability. Like, why is this equipped? Why don't we have Vash Belt on? You don't need this item. This set doesn't have enough threat. So no matter how you look at it, no gear set is ever going to be perfect for your guild. It's how do you even know what is the ideal gear set? So when it comes to your gear, really what you're just trying to do is you're trying to figure out, based on your experience in your guild, am I having threat issues? If so, you need to ramp up the threat. If not, you can increase the survivability. And I think a kind of an interesting way to think about it is when it comes to threat, there's no amount, extra threat is wasted, right? So if you have a massive threat lead the entire fight, if you start steady and the whole way through no one is even close to you on threat, well, you didn't actually need that threat. And a lot of those threat stats could have been changed into survivability, and you still would have held threat and you would have been tankier. And especially if you were almost dying, that could have been a better approach. At the same time, any unneeded mitigation is wasted and could be converted to threat. So for example, if you're tankier than you need to be on a boss, and there's really no chance you can die, and the healers are keeping you up and you don't even come close to dying, well, you could argue that you have too much survivability, and you should move some of it into threat. Now, the tricky part comes when it's not necessarily obvious. If you just had a big threat lead because you had a good pull, or because your DPS were starting slower, or when you actually have too much threat gear. And then also, it can be hard to tell. Maybe you just got lucky on the boss, and maybe if you get unlucky and you get some unlucky parry hastes, maybe you would potentially not be tanky enough in your current gear set. So that's when it gets tricky. But let's just, now that we've kind of talked about the theory of why Abyssless is never really Abyss, and you need to tweak and mess with it based on your guild. And I talked about how if you're missing gear, your set's going to change as well. Let's actually talk about how you go about messing with a set. So let's take, again, a mitigation set that we have from Wowhead. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this so I can make some changes to it. And we're over in 70 upgrades. I'll have a link to stat weights that you can use from the Fight Club Discord to easily look at warrior gear. I know there's also some druid stat weights in a spreadsheet in the druid Discord as well. Not sure if the paladin has the same resource, but if you get those stat weights into 70 upgrades, you're going to be able to click on items and really easily see alternatives when you're looking through items. So we've got this Abyss list, and let's just take an example case. Let's say you don't have Band of the Abyssal Lord, and we're going to try and figure out how we can make a gear set that is going to work for our character, assuming we're missing one of the best in slot items. So the first thing we're going to do when we're looking at a gear list that is incomplete or in progress is we're going to look at our avoidance. In the avoidance, we're going to look at our boss crit chance. 0.37% chance to be crit by a boss. That's really bad. We got to fix that. If the boss even has a slight chance to crit, we can get one shot and just a complete wipe. Very bad. You never want to get crit by a boss under any condition. Okay, so that's our number one priority. Our other priority is going to be to look at our hit rating, especially if we're going to try and keep the set to have enough threat so we're not having any issues. We want to make sure we're not missing with our attacks. So we're going to keep an eye on our hit rating, and we're going to keep an eye on our crit chance, the chance to be crit by a boss. So obviously we're missing a ring here. So we're going to click on the ring slot, and 70 upgrades is going to give us a list of a bunch of items. Illidan ring is great and all, but it would be much better used on a DPS. So we're not even going to put that into our gear set. We're going to take the highest ring besides the Illidan ring, and it is the Ring of Deceitful Intent. It has hit rating. We need hit rating, so let's click it. So we got our hit rating ring. We now have 6% hit, which is perfect. If we had gotten the Illidan ring, we'd actually have had too much. And we're looking good. We picked a high quality item. Again, anything towards the top of the 70 upgrades, as long as you've got some decent stat weights in. Again, it's all approximations. You're roughly going to have a decent item in there. If you do what I did and have the threat and the mitigation stat weights, you're going to be able to see both. So for example, Band of the Eternal Defender, very bad for threat, very good for survivability. This is the survivability, this is the threat, this is the overall. And so I'm going to go ahead and go back with the Ring of Deceitful Intent. And if you're curious how to set up the stats, I have the stats set up here. You can hit add point, and I think you hit custom, and then you can paste in stat weights from a Discord, and you're good. That's how I set them up. I selected 3 of them, and that's how I see all the rows. So that lets you look at items really quickly. So again, we're still not done with our set here. We got our ring, but we're still able to be crit. So we're looking for different slots. And if I look at all the different slots where we don't have crit immunity, we can look at our cloak. Our cloak doesn't give us any crit immunity, no defense on the cloak. But it looks like we're going to lose a lot of equivalency points if we use the Phoenix Wing Cloak. We're going to lose 26. And again, don't get too into minutia of the equivalency points and all that. It's just pretty simple, right? This number's 97, this number's 71. That's a big difference. I probably shouldn't downgrade that far unless I really have a specific reason. A specific reason might be that's just the best we can do at the time. But you really don't want to take too big of a downgrade there. We could look at our shoulders. I could change my shoulders out for the onslaught shoulders that have defense on them. Looks like I'd lose a lot of overall value and a ton of threat, so I might not want to do that. That shoulder token too, you're probably not going to have two shoulder tokens for a long time, and that'd be kind of a waste to get the defense one because it's not very good. Same thing with the chest. And so we're going down the list here. These items already have crit immunity, so we're looking to get crit immune, and really what we might end up is the thrown weapon. So the thrown weapon, we can swap out Legion Killer for an arena thrown weapon. Now we lose 11. That's not as bad as the cloak. The cloak said we were going to lose 26, so we can try that out. I'm going to pick the merciless one because it's cheaper and a lot of people might have it from the previous phase. So there goes the merciless gladiator war edge. And now we are looking at our avoidance. We still can get crit. We have a 0.07% chance to be crit. So we can make one more change and we can throw in a gem that is going to give us resilience. So I'm going to go with the defense gem instead of a resilience gem because the defense gem is going to put us barely past crit immunity. I could have also used a resilience gem, but the resilience gem is going to be a little bit wasted because it's going to put us past crit immunity by 0.06 when we can just use a defense one. Still gets us crit immune, and the defense gives us avoidance, not just a little bit of wasted crit immunity. So defense is going to be better there. Now, this definitely works, and this set is a set that is going to function, and there's nothing really wrong with it. But there's lots of different approaches we could have taken, right? This is a mitigation set, so we could have taken a completely different approach to the gear set, right? Instead of going with the hit ring, we could have gone with a defense ring. Maybe if you don't have Band of Eternity, maybe you'd go with something like the Morrigan ring, which again is overall not considered one of the better rings. But if you're going for a lot more mitigation, this ring is a mitigation ring. Although looking at it, it doesn't look like we gain much avoidance or much survivability compared to the Ring of Deceitful Intent, whereas we do lose a really large amount of overall value. So maybe not the best overall choice, but sometimes that's all you got to work with. We could use the Morrigan ring, and then we could use the Pendant of Titans and get our hit from that. That gets us enough hit chance. And if I look at our crit immunity, we're just over it. And we could potentially even slot in another gem to be defense and gain a little bit more avoidance. This set would have functioned. This is a set that you can tank with perfectly fine. Another approach would have been, instead of, let's say you don't have the Merciless Gladiator War Edge, and let's say you were able to get the Pauldrons of Abyssal Fury. Again, not the best overall item, but a good mitigation item, an item that is not going to cost your guild a tier token, so definitely something you can use, especially if you don't even have the tier shoulders yet. If we have the Pauldrons of Abyssal Fury in as a mitigation option, again, in a mitigation set, it's going to give us more avoidance. Now we have a bunch more resilience to work with, or rather crit immunity to work with, and we can start taking away a lot of the resilience. So we can go back to the bow we had before, and we can start taking away some of these gems. Instead of this resilience gem, we can go with a stamina gem and gain some health. You can see we're still have a little bit of extra crit immunity, so we can go in and change one of these resilience gems over to a defense gem. And you can see now this is once again a functioning gear set. Nothing wrong with this set. 6% hit, crit immune, the most important thing. And we're just juggling around different stats. Now, if you want, you can look at the stat weights and just go with the stat weights as gospel. And all the different configurations that we just messed with, you can look at the overall equivalency points and go with the set that has the highest equivalency points. Or you can look more into potentially, if mitigation is what you're concerned, you can look for the set that has higher mitigation score. You can look for a set that has higher threat score. The overall is kind of a combination of the two. And what that's going to do is allow you to make a balanced set that, again, the most important thing is to have enough hit and not be critable. And to do that, just keep an eye on these columns and then go through the gear set and just keep swapping things out. So what you're looking for, in summary, when it comes to gearing as a tank, is you want to use the items that have the most value. If you are missing a lot of items from a BIS list, you want to start from the pieces that you have that are best, the items that have the most equivalency points, and you want to try and make them work with the rest of your gear. So you want to slot in all of your best items. If I were starting, you can literally just go through and machine gun the top. Top item, pick the top choice. You can see this BIS list already is mostly comprised of that. Just click the best item from across the board, and then you can start adjusting it from there. So this gear set, we just pick the best of everything, and then we can start to mess with it. Okay, we picked the best of every item we could, but we're getting crit right now. So maybe we need to revisit our ring and go for a ring that's slightly worse but has a bunch of defense, right? We picked the best of everything, but we're still slightly getting crit. Okay, maybe we'll put 1 gem of resilience in and then call it a day and be good. So that's what I would recommend doing. Go through on 70 upgrades, try and get some stats in there, especially if you're less knowledgeable. It's really going to help if you have the stat weights to lean on. And you just go through, pick the best items that you have available to your character. And from there, make sure you get enough hit. Make sure you're not getting crit. And you're good. It gets more complicated when you then try and make your set tankier. When you then try and make your set have more threat, then you want to start tweaking with things of, okay, my set's looking pretty good, but I want more threat. How can I get more threat? Well, answer, you pick an item that has a little bit less overall value, but more threat. And instead of now you're missing hit, but you can gem. Using red gems, you can use glinting pyre stones instead of shifting amethysts. This is going to give you more threat because you were able to use the threat necklace, and then you're going to gem hit instead of using a defensive item that has hit on it. So that's the main takeaway there. That's how you make a gear set. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and thanks for watching. Again, all those helpful links in the description below.